Hello, my name is Dr. Richard Himmer. Thank you for watching this video. What is it like to deal with a child, a youth, an emerging youth? Well, let me share a little bit of research with you that might give some insight into how this can be not only taught, but addressed that will maximize the probability of success for any adult dealing with a youth at risk, a youth who's challenged. And really what's going on is a youth who's coming to you with pre-existing conditions of which you know nothing about. You might hear stories, you might be told a little bit about what they went through, but in reality, the youth themselves do not know the causation of why they are troubled. So let's go back to the very beginning. We have, now neuroscience has taught us, multiple brains. We're only going to talk about two: upstairs brain, downstairs brain. When youth are born, at time of conception, memories start getting embedded inside. So let's say mom and dad don't get along. Let's say it's a bad situation. Let's say at birth the father leaves. All these potential things that could happen will generate a memory inside the youth's subconscious bank, or the hippocampus. Well, here's what happens. These experiences that the youth have will lead to a set of beliefs about that person. So if I'm the youth and I'm abandoned by my father, or my mom and dad are always fighting, I'll create a narrative about me. That narrative will be compounded over years. So let's say you get that child at age 13. You've now got more than a decade of compounding experiences leading to beliefs that will be manifested in the form of a behavior that is probably maladaptive, or they would not be with your facility. You're then trying to fix something immediately of which you don't have enough information on which to operate. The training would look something like this. And the idea when you're dealing with youth is first to be able to connect with that youth at a level the youth is willing to connect back. Mutual trust and respect. To be a dictator or to be very harsh or try to move into something challenging is going to compromise both parties. The child is dealing with a triggered position in fight or flight, and sometimes freeze or faint. If we know that moving into it, then you're much better positioned to deal with the child starting down here, to move them up to here. And reality is, it doesn't even mature up here till their mid-20s. Well, what happens if that child isn't maturing at all? They're not finishing the construction of the upstairs brain. Then you've got a compromised position regardless of how smart the child is. Remember, every child coming into the institution, and we as humans as a whole, have three component parts that we're made up of. Our IQ, if you have high IQ children, very smart children, wonderful. But IQ doesn't translate into social skills. Then you have personality. Okay, they're born with that too. Neither IQ nor personality can be altered by any kind of training. What can be changed is their EQ, their emotional intelligence, their social skills, their capacity to adapt, to adopt, to work with other people. That's where the impetus is behind training youth, or working with youth, When we work with youth, it's all about connecting first and then redirecting. Knowing how to connect is the critical pathway in which we're going to travel. That comes from, how do you learn empathy? How do you teach empathy? Well, heck, what does empathy mean? And then what's the difference between empathy and sympathy and relating and compassion? These words all have critical meaning when dealing with the youth. So I'll share a quick story with you so it makes sense. Every child starting around age 8 or 9 will start a pathway, a journey, to find out who he or she is. About age 10 or 11, they start realizing the world really doesn't know who I am, and it's becoming discouraging to them. So they start acting out. You can get away with a lot as a parent. You can be really a bad parent up until age 8. After age 8, the kids no longer accept that. So at about age 11 or 12, as this child's starting to realize that the world doesn't know who he or she is, they're going to start manifesting the very behavior that got them to feel that no one knows who they are. By age 14, a child will give up thinking the world will ever know who they are, and they will then mimic and adapt or adopt the very behavior that got them to believe that the world doesn't know who they are. Back in the 60s and 70s, the average age for prescribing depression medication was 30. Today it's 14. Why? Even though we're connected internet-wise and smartphone-wise, we're so disconnected in our society. We're not teaching these social skills. Let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to what the fact is, that everyone wants to connect. The way we connect is through developing mutual trust and respect. That is an emotional intelligence skill set, starting with awareness, moving into regulation, and then self-regulation, and then what does empathy look like? I propose we go over those topics. They'll be very profound. It will never be the same once we have an awareness of what these look like. Regardless of your choices, boy, the best to you. I admire the work you're doing and I applaud you. All the best.